The blizzard came out of nowhere that January morning in 1883, transforming the California desert landscape around Calico into a frozen nightmare that no one had predicted. And when Gabriel Irving found the half-frozen woman collapsed against his barn door, her clothes torn and bloodied, her eyes vacant with trauma, he knew his solitary life was about to change forever. Gabriel had been checking on his horses when he heard the faint scratching sound against the wood. At first, he thought it might be a coyote seeking shelter from the unexpected storm, but when he pulled open the heavy door, a woman's body tumbled forward into his arms. She was impossibly light, her skin pale as death itself, her lips blue from the cold. Her dress, what remained of it, was a tattered mess of fabric that might have once been a traveling outfit. Blood stained the torn sleeves and hem, though whether from injury or violence he could not immediately tell. "Madam, madam, can you hear me?" Gabriel's voice was rough from disuse. He lived alone on his small ranch outside Calico, preferring the company of horses to people. At 26 years old, he had seen enough of humanity's cruelty during his years working cattle drives to last a lifetime. But this woman, whoever she was, needed help desperately. Her eyelids fluttered but did not open. Gabriel did not hesitate. He lifted her carefully, mindful of possible injuries, and carried her into his cabin. The fire in the hearth was already blazing, heating the small space to a comfortable warmth. He laid her on his bed, the only bed in the single-room cabin, and quickly began assessing her condition. Frostbite threatened her fingers and toes. He could see the telltale white patches on her exposed skin. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. Gabriel worked with practiced efficiency, having tended injured animals and the occasional ranch hand over the years. He removed her wet, frozen boots and began gently warming her feet with his hands, then wrapped them in blankets. Her hands received the same treatment. As he worked, he noticed more details. Bruises darkened her wrists in the pattern of finger marks. Someone had grabbed her hard. A cut above her right eyebrow had bled and then frozen. Her knuckles were scraped raw, suggesting she had fought back against whatever had happened to her. Anger kindled in Gabriel's chest, hot and protective. He spent the next hour tending to her, cleaning wounds, warming her carefully to avoid shock, covering her with every blanket he owned. The storm howled outside, wind rattling the shutters, snow piling against the windows in drifts that would have been unthinkable just yesterday. Calico sat in the Mojave Desert, where snow was rare and blizzards were practically unheard of. This freak storm had likely saved this woman's life by driving her to seek shelter, even as it threatened to kill her with cold. Finally, her eyes opened. They were a striking violet blue, unusual and beautiful, but filled with such raw terror that Gabriel instinctively stepped back, giving her space. "You are safe," he said quietly, keeping his voice gentle and his hands visible. "My name is Gabriel Irving. You collapsed outside my barn. I brought you inside to warm up. You are safe here." She stared at him without speaking, her breathing quickening toward panic. Her eyes darted around the cabin, cataloging exits, threats, anything she could use as a weapon. Gabriel recognized the behavior. He had seen it in wild horses that had been broken badly, their spirits crushed along with their bodies. "I will not hurt you," he continued in that same soft tone. "You were freezing to death. I am just trying to help you get warm and tend your injuries. That is all." Slowly, the panic in her eyes receded slightly, though wariness remained. She pulled the blankets tighter around herself, wincing at the movement. "What is your name?" Gabriel asked. For a long moment she did not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Violet." "Violet," Gabriel repeated, nodding. "That is a pretty name. Are you hurt anywhere besides what I can see? Do you need a doctor? She flinched at the word doctor, and Gabriel filed that reaction away. Whatever had happened to her, she did not trust easily. No doctor, Violet said, her voice stronger now but edged with desperation. Please, no doctor. All right, Gabriel agreed easily. No doctor, but I need to know if you are injured anywhere that needs immediate attention. I have some medical supplies, basic things. I can help if you will let me. Violet's eyes filled with tears and she turned her face away. I just need to rest, please. You can rest as long as you need, Gabriel assured her. I will be right here if you need anything. Try to sleep. He moved to the rocking chair near the fireplace, intentionally putting distance between them while staying close enough to help if needed. Violet watched him for a few more minutes before exhaustion claimed her, and her eyes drifted closed. Gabriel sat in the flickering firelight and wondered what had brought Violet frost, as he decided to think of her until she offered a surname, to his doorstep in the middle of an impossible blizzard. The questions could wait. For now, she needed rest and safety, and he would provide both for as long as necessary. The storm continued for 3 days. Gabriel had never seen anything like it in all his years in California. The snow piled higher than the windowsills, trapping them inside the cabin. He did not mind. He made trips to the barn to tend his horses, fighting through drifts to ensure they had food and water, but otherwise he stayed close to the cabin and his unexpected guest. Violet slept most of the first 2 days, waking only to accept water and small amounts of food. Gabriel made simple soups and broths, things that would be easy on her stomach. She ate mechanically without tasting, her eyes always distant. She spoke only when necessary, single words or short phrases. Gabriel did not push. He went about his daily routines quietly, giving her space to heal. He read from his small collection of books, maintained the fire, cooked meals, and waited. Patience was something he had in abundance. On the 3rd day, as the storm finally began to break, Violet spoke more than 2 words together for the first time since giving her name. Why are you helping me? Gabriel looked up from the saddle he was oiling. Because you needed help. You do not know me. Does not matter. Violet pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. She was sitting up in bed now, looking stronger than she had when he found her. The color had returned to her cheeks, and the frostbite had been caught early enough that she would keep all her fingers and toes. Most men would not be so kind to a stranger, she said quietly. Gabriel set down the saddle leather and met her eyes. I am not most men, and you were dying. What kind of person would I be if I left you to freeze? A normal one, Violet said bitterly. That is what normal people do. They walk past suffering every day. Then I suppose I am not normal. Something flickered in Violet's expression, a crack in the wall she had built around herself. No, she said softly. I suppose you are not. That afternoon, the storm cleared enough for Gabriel to dig out the cabin door and assess the damage. The world outside was transformed, white and pristine and utterly foreign to the desert landscape. Calico in the distance looked like a different town entirely, its buildings half buried in snow. When he came back inside, Violet was standing for the first time, gripping the bedpost for support. She was wearing one of his shirts, which hung nearly to her knees, and a pair of his socks. Her own clothes had been too damaged to save. You should not be up yet, Gabriel said, moving toward her. I cannot stay in bed forever, Violet replied, though her legs trembled with the effort of standing. I need to regain my strength. You will in time. But pushing too hard too fast will set you back. Violet's jaw set stubbornly. I have to be able to take care of myself. Gabriel understood. Independence meant safety for her. Relying on someone else meant vulnerability, and she had been hurt badly enough that vulnerability was terrifying. "How about this?" he offered. "You sit in the rocking chair for a while, get out of bed without overdoing it. Small steps." After a moment, Violet nodded. Gabriel helped her to the chair, supporting her weight as she shuffled across the small cabin. When she was settled, wrapped in blankets with the fire warming her, he saw some of the tension leave her shoulders. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You are welcome." Over the next week, as the unprecedented snow slowly melted under the desert sun, Violet grew stronger. She began moving around the cabin more, helping with small tasks despite Gabriel's protests that she should rest. She needed to be useful, he realized, needed to feel like less of a burden. They developed a routine. Gabriel would rise early, tend the horses and chickens, and return to make breakfast. Violet would insist on helping, though he could see the effort cost her. They would eat together in companionable silence, and then Gabriel would work on ranch tasks while Violet rested and read. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire and slowly, gradually, Violet began to talk. She told him small things at first. She was 22 years old. She had been traveling from the East Coast. She liked reading poetry. Her favorite color was green, like spring grass, though she had not seen much green since coming west. Gabriel shared his own stories in return, keeping his voice low and steady. He told her about growing up on a ranch in Texas, about learning to break horses from his father, about drifting west after his parents died of fever. He told her about buying this small piece of land outside Calico, about his dream of breeding quality horses that were smart and gentle rather than just broken. "Broken things do not work as well as whole things," he said one evening, not looking directly at her. "When you break a horse through force and fear, you get an animal that obeys out of terror. But when you work with a horse, earn its trust, train it with patience and respect, you get a partner, something much more valuable." Violet was quiet for a long time. When Gabriel glanced over, he saw tears streaming silently down her face. "I am sorry," he said immediately. "I did not mean to upset you." "You did not," Violet whispered. "It is just that no one has ever spoken about brokenness that way before, like it matters. Like it is worth fixing properly instead of just forcing things to work." Gabriel set down the bridle he had been repairing and turned to face her fully. "Violet, I do not know what happened to you before the storm brought you here. You do not have to tell me unless you want to. But I want you to know that you are not broken. You are hurt. There is a difference, and hurt things can heal given time and care and safety." Violet covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Gabriel stayed where he was, giving her space to cry, offering his presence without demanding anything in return. When the tears finally subsided, Violet wiped her eyes and looked at him with something like wonder. "How are you real?" she asked. "I am just a man," Gabriel said simply. "Nothing special." "You are wrong about that," Violet said. "You are incredibly special, you just do not see it." 2 weeks after the blizzard, Violet finally told him what had happened. They were sitting outside in the late afternoon sun, watching the last patches of snow melt into the thirsty desert soil. The air was crisp and clean, and Violet had her face tilted toward the warmth like a flower seeking light. "I was engaged to be married," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "His name was Richard Aldrich. He was from a wealthy family in Boston. My parents were thrilled with the match. I was meant to be thrilled too." Gabriel listened without interrupting, his attention fully on her. "He seemed kind at first," Violet continued. "Attentive, generous with gifts, but after we were engaged, things changed. He became possessive, controlling. He did not like me speaking to other men, even in passing. He criticized everything I did. My clothes, my opinions, my friends. He isolated me from everyone I cared about. Her fingers twisted in the fabric of her skirt, one of the simple dresses Gabriel had purchased for her on a trip into Calico. One day, about a month before the wedding, I told him I wanted to postpone. Not cancel, just postpone until I felt more ready. He lost his temper. He grabbed me and shook me and told me I was his property, that I had no right to question him. Gabriel felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression neutral, not wanting to stop her flow of words with his own anger. "I broke the engagement the next day," Violet said. "My parents were furious. They said I was being dramatic, that all men had tempers, that I was throwing away my future." Richard was worse. He began following me, sending letters, showing up at my home. He said he would not let me go, that if he could not have me, no one would. She took a shaky breath. "So I ran. I took what money I had saved and bought a train ticket west. I thought distance would keep me safe. I thought he would move on, but he followed me. He tracked me across the country. When I got to San Bernardino, he was waiting. He had hired men to watch the trains, to report when I arrived." Violet's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "He took me to a hotel room. Said he was going to make me his wife whether I agreed or not, that he would drag me back to Boston in disgrace if necessary. I fought him. I scratched his face, broke a lamp over his head. When he was dazed, I ran. I stole a horse and just rode. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. The blizzard caught me in the desert. The horse threw me and ran off. I thought I was going to die out there. Part of me wanted to. But then I saw your barn through the snow, and something in me decided to fight for one more day, and then I found you." She turned to look at Gabriel, and her eyes were clearer than he had ever seen them. "You saved my life, not just from the cold, from giving up, from believing that kindness was not real." Gabriel reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. Her fingers were small and delicate in his calloused palm. "I am glad the storm brought you to me. I am glad you decided to fight for that one more day, and I want you to know that you are safe here for as long as you want to stay. A week, a month, a year, forever. You have a home here if you want it." Violet's eyes filled with tears, but they were different tears than before. Not despair, but something like hope. "You barely know me." "I know enough," Gabriel said. "I know you are brave, I know you are strong, I know you deserve to feel safe and respected. Everything else, we can learn together if you are willing." "What if he comes looking for me?" Violet asked, fear creeping back into her voice. "Then he will find that Western men are different from Boston gentlemen," Gabriel said grimly, "and he will learn that you are under my protection. I promise you, Violet, I will not let anyone hurt you, not while I am breathing." Violet squeezed his hand. "I believe you." They sat together as the sun set, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and pink and gold, and something fragile and precious began to grow between them. The weeks turned into months. Violet healed, not just physically but emotionally, in small increments. Gabriel proved his promise daily through actions more than words. He gave her space when she needed it and company when she wanted it. He taught her to ride properly, showing her how to communicate with horses through gentle pressure and patience rather than force. He taught her to shoot, insisting that she should know how to defend herself, and was secretly impressed by how quickly she learned. In turn, Violet brought life to the cabin in ways Gabriel had not realized he was missing. She cooked meals that were actually flavorful rather than just functional. She organized his chaotic collection of tools and supplies. She started a small garden as spring arrived, coaxing vegetables from the desert soil with determination and care. She sang while she worked, old songs her mother had taught her, and Gabriel found himself stopping whatever he was doing just to listen. They talked for hours in the evenings, sharing stories and dreams and fears. Gabriel told her about his hope to breed a line of horses known for their intelligence and gentle temperament. Violet told him about her love of books, how she had dreamed of opening a library someday where everyone could access knowledge regardless of their ability to pay. "You could still do that," Gabriel said. "There are not many books in Calico. The children especially would benefit from a library." "Maybe," Violet said, but he could see the idea taking root in her mind. Gabriel found himself falling in love so gradually that he did not notice until it had already happened. It was not a single moment but 1,000 small ones. The way Violet laughed at his dry humor. The way she bit her lip when concentrating on a difficult task. The way she trusted him a little more each day, letting him into the guarded spaces of her heart piece by piece. He loved the strength she showed in continuing to heal despite her trauma. He loved her kindness toward the animals and the way she talked to the horses like they were friends. He loved her intelligence and her curiosity and the way she challenged him to think about things differently. But he kept his feelings to himself. Violet was still healing, still learning to feel safe. The last thing she needed was pressure from him, unwanted romantic attention from the man she depended on for shelter and protection. He would rather have her friendship and trust than risk losing her by pushing for more. Violet, meanwhile, was experiencing her own revelation. She had never known a man like Gabriel. He was strong but gentle, capable but humble. He never raised his voice, never made demands, never tried to control her choices. When she said no to something, he accepted it without question or coercion. When she said yes, he made sure she knew she could change her mind at any time. He made her feel safe in a way she had never experienced before. Not just physically safe, though that was part of it, but emotionally safe. Safe to be herself, to make mistakes, to have bad days without fear of judgment or punishment. Safe to heal at her own pace. She realized she was in love with him one morning in late April. She had risen early and found him in the corral, working with a young horse he was training. He was speaking to the animal in that low, soothing voice he used, praising every small step of progress. The morning sun lit his dark hair with copper highlights, and his face was relaxed and content. Violet's heart clenched with the sudden, overwhelming certainty that she wanted to spend the rest of her life watching him work with horses in the morning light. She wanted to know every expression that crossed his face, wanted to be the reason for his rare, beautiful smiles. She wanted to build a life with this man who had saved her and then given her the space to save herself. But fear held her back. What if she was wrong? What if she was just conflating gratitude with love? What if her judgment was still impaired from her trauma? And what if Gabriel did not feel the same way? He had been nothing but respectful, never crossing any boundaries. Maybe he saw her as a responsibility, a guest, even a friend, but nothing more. They continued their careful dance around each other, both in love, neither speaking of it. The catalyst came in early May. Gabriel had to make a trip to San Bernardino to purchase supplies that were not available in Calico. He was reluctant to leave Violet alone, but she insisted she would be fine. "I cannot live in fear forever," she said firmly. "You will only be gone for 3 days. I know how to shoot. I know how to take care of the animals. I will be perfectly safe." "If you are sure," Gabriel said hesitantly. "I am sure. Go, I will be here when you get back." Gabriel left early the next morning, still uneasy but trusting Violet's judgment. She waved goodbye from the porch, and he turned back to look at her 3 times before the distance finally hid her from view. The first 2 days were fine. Violet enjoyed the solitude, proud of her ability to manage the ranch on her own. She tended the animals, worked in the garden, and spent the evenings reading by lamplight. She missed Gabriel terribly, but it was a sweet ache, the longing of love rather than the pain of trauma. On the third day, a stranger arrived. Violet saw him coming from a distance, a single rider on a dark horse. Her heart began to race, but she forced herself to stay calm. Strangers passed by occasionally. It did not mean danger, but as the rider drew closer, Violet's blood turned to ice. She recognized the set of his shoulders, the way he sat his horse. Richard. He had found her. Violet ran inside and grabbed the rifle Gabriel had taught her to shoot. Her hands shook as she loaded it, but her mind was clear. She had not survived this long to give up now. Richard reined in his horse outside the cabin. "Violet," he called out, "I know you are in there. Come out and talk to me." Violet positioned herself by the window, the rifle ready. "Go away, Richard. I have nothing to say to you." "Do not be foolish," Richard said, and his voice was the same condescending tone she remembered with sickening clarity. "You have had your little adventure. It is time to come home and fulfill your obligations." "I have no obligations to you. I broke our engagement. Leave me alone." Richard dismounted and took a step toward the cabin. "You made a commitment. You embarrassed me and my family. I have spent months tracking you down, and you are going to return with me to Boston and make this right." "If you take another step, I will shoot you," Violet said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Richard laughed. "You will not shoot me. You do not have it in you." "You do not know what I have in me," Violet replied. "I am not the same woman you knew in Boston." "I will defend myself, Richard. I mean it." For the first time, Richard seemed to hesitate, then his expression darkened with anger. "Who are you to make demands? You are mine, Violet. I own you. Your father accepted my proposal, which means you belong to me." "I belong to myself," Violet said. "And you need to leave. Now." Richard started toward the cabin again, and Violet fired a shot into the ground a foot in front of him. The sound cracked across the desert, and Richard jumped back with a curse. "The next one goes through you," Violet said coldly. "Leave." For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Richard's face twisted with rage. "You think some cowboy and a gun will keep you safe? I will come back, Violet. I will bring the law. I will tell them you stole property from my hotel room, that you are a thief and a liar. I will ruin you." "Try it," Violet said, "and I will tell them how you kidnapped me, held me against my will, and assaulted me. See whose word they believe." Richard's hands clenched into fists. "This is not over." "Yes, it is. Goodbye, Richard." Richard stood there for another minute, then spat on the ground and mounted his horse. He rode off at a gallop, looking back once with an expression of pure hatred. Violet waited until he was completely out of sight before she allowed herself to collapse into a chair, the rifle clattering to the floor. She was shaking violently, adrenaline and terror flooding her system. But beneath the fear was something else. Pride. She had stood up to Richard. She had defended herself. She had sent him away. She was not broken. She was healing. She was strong. When Gabriel returned late that afternoon, he found Violet sitting on the porch, the rifle across her lap. One look at her face told him something had happened. "What is wrong?" he asked, swinging down from his horse and striding toward her. Violet told him everything. Gabriel listened with a darkening expression, his jaw tight with suppressed fury. "You should not have had to face that alone," he said when she finished. "I should have been here." "I handled it," Violet said. "Gabriel, I handled it. I stood up to him. I protected myself. For the first time in my life, I was not a victim. I was strong." Gabriel knelt in front of her and took her hands. "You have always been strong, Violet. From the moment you survived that blizzard, from the moment you decided to keep fighting, you have been the strongest person I know." "I did not feel strong," Violet admitted. "Not until today, but I do now. And it is because of you. You taught me that I am worth defending. You showed me what it looks like when someone respects me. You gave me the tools and the confidence to stand up for myself. You did the hard part, Gabriel said. I just provided a safe space for you to heal. Violet reached out and touched his face, her hand trembling slightly. You provided so much more than that. Gabriel, you gave me back my life. You gave me hope. You gave me a reason to believe that good men exist. Gabriel turned his face into her palm, his eyes closing briefly. Violet, I need to tell you something. And after I say it, if you want me to keep my distance, I will. But I cannot keep this inside anymore. What is it? Violet asked, her heart beginning to race again, but this time with anticipation rather than fear. Gabriel opened his eyes and looked at her with an intensity that stole her breath. I love you. I have loved you for months now. I love your strength and your courage and your kindness. I love the way you sing while you work and the way you talk to the horses. I love everything about you. And I know you might not feel the same way. I know you might see me as a friend or a protector or just someone who helped you when you needed it. But I had to tell you the truth. I love you, and I will spend forever helping you heal completely if you will let me. Violet's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Gabriel Irving, you foolish, wonderful man, I love you too. I have loved you for so long. I was just afraid to say it, afraid I was wrong, afraid you did not feel the same way. Gabriel stared at her in wonder. You love me. I love you, Violet confirmed. You are the best man I have ever known. You are kind and patient and gentle and strong. You make me feel safe and valued and cherished. I want to spend my life with you if you will have me. Gabriel pulled her into his arms and Violet went willingly, burying her face in his shoulder. They held each other as the sun set over the desert, two broken people who had found wholeness in each other. Marry me, Gabriel whispered into her hair. Please, Violet. Marry me and let me spend the rest of my life showing you how loved you are. Violet pulled back just enough to look at his face. Yes, she said simply. Yes, I will marry you. Gabriel kissed her then, gentle and reverent, asking permission with every movement. Violet kissed him back, pouring all her love and trust and hope into that single, perfect moment. They were married a month later in a simple ceremony in Calico. The whole town turned out, thrilled to celebrate the romance that had blossomed from tragedy. Violet wore a dress of pale blue that matched her eyes, and Gabriel wore his best suit, his hair neatly combed for once, when the minister pronounced them husband and wife. Gabriel kissed Violet with a joy that radiated from every pore. The townspeople cheered, and someone started playing a fiddle, and the celebration lasted long into the night. Gabriel and Violet returned to the ranch that had become their home, now officially beginning their life together. That first night as husband and wife, Gabriel carried Violet over the threshold and set her down gently in the cabin that had sheltered her through her darkest days. "Are you happy?" he asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Violet replied honestly. "I did not believe I would survive last winter. And now here I am, married to the man I love, safe and whole and free. It feels like a dream." "It is real," Gabriel assured her. "And I promise you, Violet Irving, I will spend every day making sure you know how precious you are to me." Violet pulled him down for a kiss. "I know," she whispered against his lips. "I already know." Their marriage was everything Violet had never dared to hope for. Gabriel was patient and considerate, always checking that she was comfortable, always respecting her boundaries. He made her laugh with his quiet humor. He supported her dreams, encouraging her to pursue the library she had talked about. He held her when nightmares woke her in the middle of the night, whispering assurances until she could sleep again. In return, Violet brought joy and warmth to Gabriel's previously solitary life. She made the cabin a true home, filled with small touches that reflected her personality. She helped him with the horses, proving to have a natural gift for training. She challenged him intellectually, engaging him in debates about philosophy and politics that he found endlessly stimulating. She loved him with a fierce loyalty that still surprised him sometimes. Together, they built a life that was richer than either could have created alone. The library became a reality a year after their wedding. Violet had saved money from selling eggs and vegetables, and Gabriel contributed his savings from horse sales. They converted an unused building in Calico into a bright, welcoming space filled with books. Violet ordered volumes from catalogs, accepted donations from townspeople, and even wrote to publishers requesting review copies. The Calico Public Library opened in the spring of 1885, and it quickly became the heart of the community. Children came after school to read adventure stories. Miners came in the evenings to escape their cramped boarding houses. Women came for the latest novels. Everyone came because Violet made them feel welcome. Gabriel would often ride into town at the end of the day to collect his wife, and he would find her surrounded by eager readers, her face alight with happiness. She had found her purpose, and he could not have been prouder. Meanwhile, Gabriel's horse breeding program was gaining recognition. His methods, based on patience and respect rather than breaking through force, produced horses that were sought after throughout California. Ranchers appreciated their intelligence and reliability. Wealthy buyers appreciated their fine lines and gentle temperaments. The modest ranch grew more prosperous. Gabriel hired a young man named Thomas to help with the increased workload. He built a larger barn and additional corrals. He purchased more land to accommodate the growing herd. And through it all, Violet was his partner, offering advice, managing the finances, and working alongside him when needed. In the winter of 1886, Violet discovered she was pregnant. She told Gabriel one evening after dinner, watching his face anxiously for his reaction. Gabriel stared at her for a moment in stunned silence. Then his face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. He whooped with joy, picked her up, and spun her around carefully. "We are going to have a baby," he asked, setting her down gently, his hands on her shoulders. "We are going to have a baby," Violet confirmed, laughing at his enthusiasm. Gabriel kissed her thoroughly, then dropped to his knees and pressed his ear to her still flat stomach. "Hello in there, little one," he said softly. "This is your papa. I cannot wait to meet you." Violet ran her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed with love for this man who had saved her, healed her, and now gave her the family she had always wanted. Their son was born in early summer, a healthy baby with his father's dark hair and his mother's blue eyes. They named him Samuel Irving, and he was adored from the moment he drew his first breath. Gabriel proved to be a devoted father. He fashioned a cradle with his own hands, carving horses into the headboard. He walked the floor with Samuel when he cried at night, singing old cowboy songs in his rough voice. He looked at his son with such wonder that Violet often found herself tearing up at the sight. "I never knew I could love like this," Gabriel told her one night, holding Samuel while Violet rested. "I thought loving you was the fullest my heart could be, but somehow there is room for even more." "Love multiplies," Violet said softly. "It does not divide. The more we give, the more we have." Samuel was followed by a daughter 2 years later. Margaret had her mother's violet blue eyes and her father's serious demeanor, though she smiled often once you earned it. Then came another son, Andrew, who was loud and adventurous from birth. The cabin became too small, so Gabriel built a proper house, with separate bedrooms and a large kitchen and a porch that wrapped around 3 sides. The Irving family became well known and well loved in Calico. Gabriel was respected for his integrity and skill with horses. Violet was cherished for her generosity and the library she maintained. Their children were welcomed wherever they went, known for their good manners and kind hearts, but success and happiness did not erase the past entirely. Violet still had occasional nightmares about Richard. Gabriel still sometimes woke to find her standing at the window, staring into the darkness, making sure no one was coming. "I am sorry," she would say when he came to stand beside her. "I know it is irrational. It has been years, but sometimes the fear just comes back." "You never have to apologize for that," Gabriel would tell her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Trauma does not follow a logical timeline. You feel what you feel, and I am here for all of it, the good days and the hard days." Those moments of vulnerability only deepened their bond. They had seen each other at their worst and chosen to stay. They had built a life on a foundation of honesty and trust, and it was unshakable. When Samuel was 8 years old, he asked his mother about her past. "Mama, why do you not have any family besides us? Everyone else has grandparents and aunts and uncles. Why do not we?" Violet had known this conversation would come eventually. She sat Samuel down and told him an age-appropriate version of her story. She explained that she had grown up in Boston, that her parents had wanted her to marry someone she did not love, that she had run away to find a better life. "Was Papa the better life?" Samuel asked. Violet smiled. "Papa was beyond my wildest dreams. He saved me and loved me and gave me you and Margaret and Andrew. So yes, he was definitely the better life. What happened to your parents, I do not know," Violet admitted. "I have not spoken to them since I left Boston. Maybe someday I will write to them, but right now this family is enough for me." Samuel thought about that for a moment. "I am glad you ran away, Mama. Otherwise you would not have found Papa and I would not exist." Violet hugged him tightly. "I am glad too, sweetheart, so very glad." As the children grew, Violet began to think more about her parents. She wondered if they ever regretted their choices. She wondered if they had tried to find her. She wondered if they would want to know their grandchildren. Finally, in 1895, she wrote a letter. She addressed it to her childhood home in Boston and simply told her parents that she was alive, well, and happy. She told them about Gabriel and the children. She told them about the library and the ranch and their life in California. She did not ask for anything. She simply wanted them to know she had survived. Months passed with no response. Violet tried not to be disappointed. She had built a beautiful life without them, and she did not need their approval or reconciliation to be complete. But then, nearly a year after she sent the letter, a response arrived. It was from her mother, and the handwriting was shaky with age. The letter was brief. Her mother wrote that she had been overjoyed to hear from Violet that she and Violet's father had regretted their actions for years. She explained that they had tried to find her but had lost the trail in San Bernardino. She asked for forgiveness and permission to visit if Violet was willing. Violet showed the letter to Gabriel. "What do you think I should do?" Gabriel read it carefully. "What do you want to do?" "Part of me wants to slam the door in their faces like they slammed it in mine," Violet admitted. "But another part of me wants to give them a chance. People can change. I changed. Maybe they did too." "Then invite them to visit," Gabriel said. "See how it goes. If they prove themselves worthy of being in your life, wonderful. If not, you send them home and close that door permanently. But at least you will know you gave them a chance." Violet nodded slowly. "You are right. I will write back and invite them for Christmas." Her parents arrived in December, frail and elderly but genuinely remorseful. Violet's mother wept when she saw her daughter, now a confident woman of 34 with a family of her own. Violet's father shook Gabriel's hand and thanked him for taking care of his daughter when he had failed to. It was not an instant reconciliation. There was too much hurt, too many years of absence. But over the course of their visit, Violet saw that her parents had indeed changed. They were humbled by age and regret. They doted on their grandchildren with the affection they had never shown Violet. They praised Gabriel and the life he and Violet had built together. On Christmas Eve, Violet's father pulled her aside. "I owe you an apology that is long overdue. I failed you as a father. I prioritized wealth and status over your safety and happiness. I pushed you toward a man who hurt you, and I did not listen when you tried to tell me the truth. I have carried that guilt every day for the past 12 years. Violet's eyes welled with tears. "I needed to hear that. Thank you. You have built something remarkable here," her father continued. "A good marriage, beautiful children, a purpose that serves your community. You did all of that without our help or support. I am so proud of you, Violet. I just wish I had told you that when you were young." "You are telling me now," Violet said. "That counts for something." Her parents stayed for 2 weeks, and by the time they left, a fragile bridge had been built between them. They would never have the relationship they might have had if things had been different, but they had something. And that was enough. The years continued to pass, filled with the ordinary joys and challenges of family life. Samuel grew into a thoughtful young man who loved books as much as his mother. Margaret developed her father's gift with horses and began training them herself. Andrew became the charming diplomat of the family, able to talk his way into or out of almost anything. Gabriel's hair began to gray at the temples, and Violet found she loved the silver strands as much as she had loved the dark. They made him look distinguished, she told him, and wise. Violet herself aged gracefully, laugh lines appearing around her eyes from years of smiling. She had gained a comfortable confidence that came from knowing she was loved exactly as she was. They celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary in 1906, surrounded by family and friends. The party was held at the ranch, now a prosperous establishment known throughout the region. Horses grazed in green pastures, children ran through the yard, and the house rang with laughter. Gabriel stood to make a toast. 20 years ago, I was a lonely man living a half-life, going through the motions but never really living. And then a blizzard brought me the greatest gift I could have imagined. Violet, you are my best friend, my partner, my love. You have given me 3 incredible children, a full heart, and a reason to wake up grateful every morning. Here is to 20 more years, and then 20 after that, and then as many as we are blessed to have together. Everyone cheered and clinked glasses. Violet stood and kissed her husband soundly, not caring who was watching. "I love you," she whispered for his ears alone. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for healing me. Thank you for loving me so completely." "It has been my greatest honor," Gabriel whispered back. "Every single day." As they grew older, Gabriel and Violet settled into a comfortable rhythm. They handed more of the ranch operations to Samuel, who had returned from college with ideas about modernizing while maintaining his father's ethical standards. Margaret opened her own horse training business, applying the gentle methods her father had pioneered. Andrew went into politics, using his charm and intelligence to fight for better conditions for working families. Gabriel and Violet spent their days working in the garden, reading on the porch, and enjoying their grandchildren when they visited. They took long rides through the desert, just the two of them, reminiscing about their years together. On one such ride, when Gabriel was 62 and Violet was 58, they stopped to rest under a Joshua tree. The desert stretched around them, beautiful in its harsh way, and the sky was impossibly blue overhead. "You ever regret it?" Gabriel asked suddenly. "Staying here, I mean." "You could have gone anywhere after you left Boston. You could have had a different life." Violet looked at him incredulously. Regret this? Regret you? Never, not for a single moment. Gabriel, you were not just the best thing that happened to me, you were everything. You showed me what love really means. You gave me a life beyond anything I could have imagined for myself. I would choose you again and again and again if I had the chance. Gabriel smiled, that rare, beautiful smile that still made her heart skip. Good, because I would choose you every time too. You were broken when that blizzard brought you to me, but you were never beyond repair. You just needed someone to see your value while you healed. And you did more than see it, Violet said. You protected it. You nurtured it. You gave me the time and space to become whole again. I will never stop being grateful for that. I did not do it for gratitude, Gabriel said. I did it for love, and I would do it all over again tomorrow. They sat together in the desert silence, hands intertwined, hearts full, watching the sun paint the sky in colors too beautiful for words. Gabriel lived to be 74 years old. He passed peacefully in his sleep one autumn night with Violet beside him holding his hand. She woke to find him gone, his face relaxed and serene, and though her heart shattered, she found comfort in knowing he had not suffered. The funeral was the largest Calico had ever seen. Ranchers came from across the state to pay respects to the man who had revolutionized horse training with kindness. Townspeople came to honor the man who had always had a helping hand for anyone in need. Family came to mourn the patriarch who had loved them all so fiercely. Violet stood beside the grave and spoke without notes. Gabriel Irving saved my life twice. Once when he pulled me from a blizzard and once when he showed me what real love looks like. He was the kindest man I have ever known. He was patient and gentle and strong. He loved without conditions and gave without expectation of return. The world is darker without him in it, but also brighter because he was here at all. I will love him until my last breath and beyond. She lived for another 8 years without him, surrounded by children and grandchildren and even great-grandchildren. She kept the library running until her fingers were too arthritic to turn pages. She tended the garden until her knees would no longer bend. She told stories about Gabriel to anyone who would listen, keeping his memory alive through words. On a spring morning in 1927, Violet Irving passed away in her sleep at the age of 82. She was buried beside Gabriel under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Her children gathered around the grave and took turns sharing memories. Samuel spoke of his father's patience in teaching him to ride. Margaret spoke of her mother's fierce determination to create the library. Andrew spoke of the love that had bound his parents together, a love that had shaped all their lives for the better. They found each other in the worst of circumstances, Samuel said, and they built something beautiful. We are all here because a blizzard delivered a broken woman to a gentle cowboy's door, and he said, I will spend forever helping you heal completely. And he did. He kept that promise until his last breath, and she honored him by living fully every day after. The Irving children and grandchildren returned to the ranch after the funeral. They walked through the house that held so many memories. They looked at photographs of Gabriel and Violet throughout the years, watching them age from young lovers to elderly partners, the love in their eyes constant across the decades. In Violet's bedside table, they found a journal. The final entry was dated just days before her death. It read, I am 82 years old and I have lived a life richer than I ever dreamed possible. When I was 22 and running from violence, I thought my life was over. I thought I would die alone and forgotten in the desert. But then Gabriel found me. He saved me, not just from the cold, but from despair. He loved me back to wholeness. He gave me 44 years of partnership, laughter, challenge, and joy. He gave me children who make me proud every day. He gave me a purpose and a home and a family. I have been blessed beyond measure. Soon I will see him again, and I can tell him one more time how grateful I am that the snowstorm brought me to his door. How grateful I am that he chose to love me through all my brokenness until I was whole. I am ready to go home to him now. My life has been complete. The journal was passed around, and there was not a dry eye in the room. The Irving family had been built on a foundation of love that conquered trauma, patience that outlasted pain, and commitment that never wavered. It was a legacy worth carrying forward. Years later, when someone would ask about the Irving family, old-timers in Calico would tell the story. They would speak of the impossible blizzard that struck the desert in 1883. They would tell of the young woman who nearly died and the cowboy who saved her. They would describe the love that blossomed between them, strong enough to heal even the deepest wounds. She was delivered to him broken, they would say, and he spent forever helping her heal completely. That kind of love does not come around often, but when it does, it changes everything. The ranch still stood, run by Irving descendants who maintained Gabriel's methods of gentle horse training. The library still operated, expanded and modernized, but still bearing Violet's name over the door. And sometimes, on cold desert nights, people swore they could see two figures walking hand in hand through the moonlight, forever together, forever home. The love story of Gabriel and Violet Irving became legend in Calico, California. It was told to courting couples as an example of what true partnership looked like. It was told to abused survivors as proof that healing was possible. It was told to cynics as evidence that good men existed. It was told to children as a fairy tale, except it was real. Because once upon a time, a snowstorm delivered a broken woman to a gentle cowboy's door, and he looked at her with kind eyes and a generous heart and said the words that would define both their lives forever after. "I will spend forever helping you heal completely." And he did.